Hi, welcome. I'm Maria from Read Pine Books, and today we are talking about Earthseed, a wonderful series with the best leading character. Lauren Oya Olamina is a 15-year-old black woman who becomes a leader in this awesome fictional series. Earthseed is a duology formed by Parable of the Sower and Parable of the Talents. However, this wasn't supposed to happen originally. It should have had a lot more books to it, but unfortunately the author, Octavia Butler, died before she could get a chance to finish it. However, the two books there are spectacular. They are the best ones I've ever read on apocalyptic literature. They are inspirational and the writing is beautiful. I loved absolutely everything about them. I can have no criticism at all. They are one of my favorite books of all times. And the future we have in these books starts in 2024. That is so close. And this dystopia sadly got a lot of things right. It was written in 1993, the first volume, and in 1998 came out the second one. And yet what it foretold was spot on. One thing that really sets apart this series from others is the focus on religion and on personal beliefs that shape our personalities, shape us, our values and our actions, and how these beliefs will help us make better choices when we are faced with insurmountable problems. The book reads in a way like an autobiography. We follow Lauren Olamina from her small neighborhood to an entire journey of her becoming a leader. Everything starts in 2024 when the world had become extremely divided between the rich and the poor. Climate change has done irreparable damage to most parts of the world, including California, where she lives. There, rain now falls only once in a few years. There are terrible droughts, and sad enough, that is the case today. California goes through terrible droughts. So, as I said, this future is not that far-fetched, especially when you realize that everything had happened in the book very gradually. There is no apocalyptical moment, apocalyptical event that triggers everything. No, this is gradual. These are small things that happen gradually, and before you realize it, you're reliving the apocalypse because the world is completely changed and your children do not recognize the comfort you have been living in. So in this future, water has become more expensive than food in California. Unemployment is everywhere. There are growing numbers of people living in the streets, people that have become extremely violent, people that take drugs to feel better, to feel something, people that are desperate. Outside gated community, the world was wild. Lauren lived in this relatively safe environment, but this all goes away in a violent event because people run down their community. They kill everyone, and she manages to escape along with two others, and they all three start a journey further north where they presume climate is a bit better and employment opportunities exist more than in California. However, her journey starts a bit before that, because we get to see her in her community not feeling as part of it as she should have. She feels different because she has different ideas from her father, who was a preacher. She has already formed an idea of a personal religion, a personal philosophy. She always writes about it and believes with all her soul that God is change. God is something else than she was taught to believe. Her observations of the world around her force her to view the world differently than her parents. She is a child, a young woman who lives in a different world, and the fact that she has different beliefs, although she is unable to express them to her father, marks her beginning to grow up. She becomes mature enough that when this disaster hits her community, she is prepared for it. Her views help her to acknowledge this fact and surpass her entire family dying, surpass this tragedy that happened to everyone she knows, and to move forward. It is due to her beliefs that she can do all of this. She can be strong, and that gives her the idea to start this entire community based on the belief that God is change and everything around you is change. She comments these ideas to the 2 other survivors of her community, and with their help, the journey is possible. Her growing up is possible. Her blossoming into a leader is natural. She had the experience of witnessing her father preach, so she had naturally learned from him. That makes her able to share her knowledge in a very passionate way and to reach people's hearts. Of course, building an entire community is an extremely difficult process, especially given the times she was living in. Practically, she faces the US government becoming very authoritative and coming after what they called religious cults, which what her community was after all. Even more terrible, freedom in the US becomes very tied to financial power, and though her community starts small, she gains influence. However, that makes her all the more of a target. Police corruption is the main reason for that as well. People can't trust authorities anymore. Violent groups must be fought by the communities they attack. There is only strength in numbers and firepower. No one else will intervene. However, in this world, Lauren is not perfect. She evolves from a 15-year-old girl to a woman who marries and has a child, to a woman who people listen to, a true leader, but not a perfect leader. She is admired though, and what she achieves is spectacular. I cannot state this enough. You need to read these books. What I'm going to talk about now are 5 traits that make up her to be an extraordinary leader. Qualities to really model in troubled times. The first one is observe. Lauren has a gift. From her own point of view, for most of her life, she sees it as a curse. She is hyper empathetic, which means she can sense the same feelings as those around her. She can feel what others feel, either pain or joy. She feels it through her body. That makes her extremely vulnerable in times where violence is everywhere, because she, of course, feels it. When she punches, she feels the punch. When she kills, she feels the blow. The situations she is put in are a lot more complicated, especially when she's alone. That is why she needs to trust those around her. She needs to surround herself with people who she can trust. But more importantly, this gift made her more observant of the world around her. Even from a young age, she is very aware of everything that happens in the world. That makes her able to predict that the safe environment she grew up in will not be something to hold on to forever, because it will disappear soon. Something that she tries to communicate with her father, but he doesn't see it. He is not as observant as she is. Further along, observance becomes part of her religious philosophy. Being observant and helping those around her become more observant is what helps her community thrive, because they are able to seize opportunities, they are able to be more aware of dangers and take precautions. They have food and supplies and documents hidden away in various locations. They have watch posts and plans for when everything falls apart. She always says in her journals that everything she knows comes from observations, and of course that is not enough. Another quality becomes then to prepare. Because observing is key, but what you do with your observation is equally important. It is always necessary to take action, and thus preparedness becomes a second nature to herself as well. From a young age, she understands that knowing and learning from everything around her, from books, is so important for the future. She thus learns to grow crops, and she learns to take advantage very well of the nature that surrounds her from books from a young age. She knows how to grow crops, how to plant seeds, choose the best plants to plant according to soil. She knows what plants are edible and what plants are not. All those types of things she learns from books from a young age, because she prepares for a future where her community will not be there for her. That shows an incredible quality for a leader, being able to prepare. And with the community she later builds, as I said, all her safety places where she hides food and supplies, all that helps her community survive when the worst comes to worst, because the worst always comes. Another idea she has that I loved is to aim for the stars. Lauren's religion philosophy is extremely interesting, but most of all is extremely ambitious. She lives in a time where people consider space exploration an unnecessary cost, and Guess what times we are living in. Just remember how many people protested the billionaires going to space because millions are suffering on Earth, which is a valid point. However, aiming for the stars is a noble purpose and should not disappear just because things are bad now. Because in reality, things have never been better for the communities here on Earth. Lauren recognizes the poverty around her, but she also recognizes that people need an ideal. They need to strive for something more, something great and inspiring. They need to believe in something that is just a little out of reach, so they can do more with what they have. This becomes the main idea for her religion, the idea that man has to go to space to spread his seed there among the stars. This goal is perfectly chosen. It shows how her community strives more for its children than anyone else, because they know they themselves cannot go to space. However, they hope that their children or their grandchildren will. They hope to leave this world a better place for them. They do everything to live better and give the best they have to their community so that their children will fulfill their goal. This is what makes the entire community that Lauren sets up to flourish. And this is why I think this book is such a must read. Another lesson we can take from Lauren is be involved in your community. Lauren is a true visionary. She doesn't let anything deter her from what she wants for her community, for what she sees the future of the community to be. But the most important thing she does is to be part of her community, to take action, to be actually very, very involved with everything her community does. She, inside of her community, is a teacher. She teaches children. She preaches every Sunday. She goes out to gather resources. She goes out to talk and establish economic connections with other communities. She is their ambassador and their teacher and their representative. She is everything in her community. She is involved. She chooses to put herself in harm's way by leaving her community when they need to go out, because in her position she would be able to stay in and just teach or do other easier chores, but no, she goes out and is a true leader. She always asks herself, what is the next important thing to do? What can her community do more? That is what great leaders do. Being involved is what helps her recognize the next important thing to do and is the key for which she is a better leader. One of the most important things to consider is the lesson that change is to be accepted as inevitable. I chose this as the most important lesson because this is what everyone's focus should be. The change is the main struggle for anybody today. We are living in a society that will change during our lifetime again and again. Society has become unrecognizable in the last 100 years and will become unrecognizable again in the next few. Our children or our grandchildren will be living in completely different times with completely different problems. What they need to learn, what we all need to learn, is that change is inevitable, and the incapacity to adapt to it is a major hindrance to any community. Observing, preparing, and being able to change is crucial to survive and thrive in any environment that will come. Change is in the fabric of everything, and Lauren recognizes that and makes it the basis of her religion. The fact that Buddhism and Stoicism, two philosophies that are best known for their capacity to help in times of trouble, the fact that they too focus on change and ability to cope with it is something to notice as well. Lauren's philosophy states that God is change. What does that mean? It means that no one can save you from change. It means that change is something to be accepted and dealt with. Change is everywhere, and it is one's duty to be prepared for it and to take advantage of every opportunity you have. And one of the best things in this book is how Lauren copes with change, because it is there we see her sometimes falter. We see her resilience, but we also see her doubts, her problems with change, her struggling with this ideal of accepting change. I found that perfect. I found her as an imperfect leader that struggles with the very thing she preaches so good. It seems to me that makes her all the more powerful and authentic. All in all, I love the Earthseed series. Both Parable of the Sower and Parable of the Talents are perfect. They are exceptionally well written, and evidently the main character is an exceptional role model. The fast pace, the struggles, the entire world Octavia Butler built, there is nothing that is not perfect in these books. I actually plan on rereading them and talking a lot more about them. Please do read them and tell me your opinions. This is Maria from Read Fine Books. Thank you for watching.